Our project is on the Niser War Monument. It is by Jesse, Hadil, Kiyoshi, Victor, and Sita. In this presentation, we will first start off by explaining what the Niser War Monument exactly is. And then we're going to go into the history before the monument, which proves to be very prevalent to why the monument was built. We're going to go into how the monument was built and then explain furthermore why it was built. And then we're also going to tell some stories and controversies that surround this monument. And then we are going to explain some of our experiences while visiting the monument. And then we're going to explain some pictures and videos in detail that we took while we were visiting this monument. So, what is the Niser War Monument? Well, this is a monument that was put in place to honor all of the Japanese Americans that died fighting for America in World War II. This monument was dedicated in 1949, and that was a huge deal at that time because it was so close to the war. They raised enough money so fast to get this monument put in place, and it is important to a lot of people. This monument is 21 feet tall, so it's pretty big. It's made from Minnesota Rainbow Cold Spring granite, and it had 50 names inscribed before the dedication, and then 9 names have been added since the dedication. It was placed in Lakeview Cemetery, which is in Capitol Hill, and that is in Seattle, Washington. It is surrounded by a lot of Japanese American graves, and we're not sure if this is on purpose, if maybe it had something to do with segregation at the time, or maybe if they did this on purpose. But then it also has a message inscribed on the front of the monument, which is really beautiful. And there is a committee that holds a memorial service every Memorial Day, and this ceremony has been happening every year since the dedication, and they hold this ceremony for all the men who died while fighting in wars, so it is really important to a lot of people, and it has been a tradition that will probably go on for a very, very long time.
So I had an interview with Michael, and Michael explained about how things were before the World War II, and during World War II, what makes the monument significant, and when I talked to him, one of the stories that he told me was that he had an uncle that was serving in the military, and he had 4 different family members, and one of his cousin's name is on the monument, so that's why he feels an emotional attachment to it, and it's so significant to him because one of his family members' names is on the Niser War Memorial Monument. And he says that one of his family members told him that there was a lot of discrimination in the military from one of them, because he says that a lot of one of them didn't really talk about it, and he only has one family member still alive today that served in the military during that time. And he says that one of them told him that when he served, a commanding officer told him that as long as you wear a uniform, you are American. He was American, and that he accepted him and treated him like everybody else. But the thing was that not everybody was treated the same way. Not all the commanding officers or people Americans treated them the same way. That was one of the rare people that actually treated them with respect. And he told me, that when for him that for him, he served in the military, served for a while, and he's also served for the government and worked in the White House. And he said that a few years back, he was still working for the government in DC, and he was walking out of the White House in a uniform, and someone came up to him and told him to go back to where he came from in a federal uniform, and that just goes to show, even today, where things are not as bad as what they used to be in the time when people served in World War II, when Japanese served. And it shows that there is still hatred going on today. And for him to be told that in a federal uniform, like to go back to his country, like after he's showing that he served for the country and he's like been loyal to the country. Now imagine how bad it was during that country. If in today's era he's still there's still people being racist towards him. Now imagine how the Nisei and his family members that served were treated during. And when I talked to him, and we talked also about like I asked him, because a lot of people don't really know about the monument, and people don't really go and visit the monument, And what I asked him was like, why don't people go and see it? Like, is it that they don't want to remember the people? Remember that a lot of the Japanese community was incarcerated, and then after that, they were basically forced to join the military because if they didn't, they would be sent to jail, and then their own communities wouldn't accept them, and their family members would treat them badly for not joining. So it's like they had no choice. It's like, do people not want to remember that everything that they were put through? Is that why they don't go and visit, or why it's not really talked about? And what he said it was that he doesn't think that it's that people don't want to remember it, or like remember what happened to them and everything that led up to it, and why the monument is so important. He said that it's just that people don't really know about it, and if people don't know about it, they're not gonna really go and see it. And I asked him, like, what do you think can be done to for people to go and see it? And he said that usually, people, or like the news outlets, people don't really talk about certain things unless there's something in it for them, And he said that he doesn't think that it will really be talked about much unless people feel that there's something in it for them, on their side. And when I talked to him, he said that one way that he thinks that it could get more people to go and visit it is that when there there's a he said there's a museum that they're working on that is to get working on to open about like about military. They're opening a museum, and that for like 3 years they're sending like sending in like bios and like things of people that serve the Nisei that served in the military from the National Museum of the U.S. Army, that they're sending it to this new museum that they're gonna open in Washington, and they're gonna send a whole bunch of stuff here, and that he even has stuff from one of his uncles that served that he's gonna let them borrow, like some of his like uniforms and stuff for that, and it's gonna be on display for about 3 years, is what he said. And he says that they're thinking about it in the museum. There's someone mentioning something as well about the Niser War Memorial Monument, and if people go in there and know about it and research it, and like, oh hey, like these people served, and now there's a monument that may get more people to go and see it, And what we also talked about was that if you look up the Lakeview Cemetery, as soon as you look up the Lakeview Cemetery, they what pops up in Google, like right underneath it, you see that it says that they have the burials there of Bruce Lee, which attracts, a whole bunch of attention for people to go visit and go see Bruce Lee. What we talked about was like one way that they could do it to get people to go was like if the community were to put pressure on it, on the cemetery, or like on to under that Google page where it says like Bruce Lee right underneath it, if they got the pressure from the people, be like, hey, like maybe you should just put underneath it somewhere that there's also the Nisei War Memorial Monument, so people can know about it. And once they're there, if they're already there, they can just go and see it, take a quick look, and that's it, if they're already there. And the other thing that we talked about that me and him really that he didn't have too much an idea of was like why that certain place in certain cemetery was picked for the Niser War Memorial because during that time, they weren't being accepted. So there were certain places that they could have burials at, and other places where they couldn't. So we were wondering if they did it there because that's one of the only places that let them do it. And when you go around there around the cemetery, a lot of the tombs around that area of where the monument is all mostly has Japanese letterings. So like during that time was there like a segregation? That's why maybe there's only like Japanese letterings around this because if people usually go around there visit family members and stuff, and if they go visit family members, they're gonna see it. But if they don't have family members on that side, then they're not gonna see it. And then so with him, we talked about that the for the Nisei War Memorial Monument that the community is the one that helped raise it. They didn't get help from the city, anything like that. They all did it on their own. And up until recently, like not too long ago, like they had no help. Like they had to do everything. But recently, the land, the part of where the memorial is at, was recently donated by the Lakeview Cemetery.
When I visited the monument a first time, I found there a countless number of Japanese tombs around the grounds, a Nisei War Memorial Monument towering up in the middle. The surroundings of the monument were quiet, but I felt some energy from the monument, like it was trying to tell us something. When I saw big Japanese letters engraved in the monument, I realized that this monument is about American Japanese soldiers who died in World War II. After that, I went different side of the monument and found many American Japanese soldiers' names. Below that, there was the definition of Americanism by President Franklin Roosevelt. I perceived that these soldiers fought for America and died as American. As a person who was born in Japan, growing up in Japan, I felt respect to Nisei Japanese American soldiers who died in World War II, and at the same time, I felt like I must know more about the history behind this monument.
This is Jessie, and I'll be explaining my experience that I had while visiting the Niser War Monument. First of all, I think that it was a little bit hard for me to visit the monument, and I mean not logistically, like I could drive there, but emotionally, I think that I didn't realize until I was in the cemetery that I was in a cemetery, and it really brought up past emotions about people that I have lost. So especially like my grandma, I lost her a year ago, and so being in that space was just a little bit hard for me. But once I got to the monument, I was able to not push away the feelings, but I feel like see the monument for what it actually was and be able to be in the moment. And so I thought the monument was beautiful. I think that it really showed and honored the people that it was made for. And I realized that the monument was built for all of these Japanese Americans that had fought and died for the country that was discriminating them at the time. And I thought that was so beautiful. And I realized how truly honored I was to be able to witness this monument and appreciate those men that died for America. So I also think that it just made the history of what we learned feel like a lot more real. I feel like we were doing a lot of research and I was getting a lot of facts about the monument, but didn't really emotionally connect to it because I didn't see it. And so being at the monument and seeing everything in real life really made all of the history that we were learning come to life and made me realize how important this monument is to so many people. And it just made a lot of things more real and more emotional.